keep our focus on that question of, is there mold in the house? Of course, yes, there is. If it's dormant, it's okay. If it's active, it's an issue. And it's wetness and dampness that kicks it into activity. So if you really want to get to the bottom of where it's more likely to have mold troubles in the house, we got to go to the basement and the crawl space. This is the damp, cool area. This is where I'd expect to find more mold. Let's take a look around this space and see what we find. You can see up above us is the bottom of the floor system with the subfloor and the floor joists. Then I see the vertical support post to hold that system up. And down below at the floor, gee, it's just soil. Worse yet, it's kind of muddy. It's wet. It's muddy. Worse yet than that, surely there's mold spores in the soil. It's a natural element in nature. Bacteria and molds and bugs and animals. Well, fungi or molds are some of those natural critters, and they're in the soil. So they'll be growing in the organics in the soil. But boy, would they love to be growing on these pieces of wood debris that are scattered on this damp soil. So these are often, and this is black with growth. And then let's see a little bit of greenish in there too. This mold food is what it is. So certainly don't put debris and wood materials, scraps and paper on damp soil like this. I'd be looking at the exterior walls for signs of water that's flowing in or water that's evaporating through. So there's been some dampness behind that brick wall, and that dampness has been weeping through the wall, adding moisture to this space. So besides the moisture from the soil and moisture coming through the foundation wall, gee, look what's happening down on the soil now. Look at the mold growth here. Surely anybody would be able to say, no matter what your level of experience is, that's mold. I don't need a tape sample. I don't need a swab. I don't need an air sample. All it's we'll put a light on that, and I can see, by golly, here it is right in front of us. That's the stuff we'll be looking for first together. We've got to get down to the bottom of that answer is, why is there water coming through this brick wall? Why is this soil so wet that we're standing on? If we don't get answers to those questions, and if we don't solve those problems, we'll never solve the mold problem. We're just asking for it and inviting it to be active here. So we're going to have to, after we get out of the crawl space, we'll have to go outside and figure out what is it that's making this wall so damp. Is there something we could do outside to correct this? And we'll figure that out together. Let's look up against this other foundation wall. An issue in the corner is the hole in the wall. Let me take the light off of this. Up in there. Golly, that's big enough. I could put my hand outside. So if I could put my hand outside, water can flow in, rodents can come in, snakes can come in, dampness can come in, cold air blows in. I've got cold air blowing on my face right now from outside. That's not going to help us control conditions in the house, in this crawl space. So we'll have to seal up holes like that. Matter of fact, here at this hole, looking at the soil, it's showing patterns carved out as though water was flowing in here, carrying away soil, spilling down onto the ground. And you can even follow the water trails across the soil. That's why it's so damp down here. The soil is so damp because it's been flowing in from outside. Matter of fact, the further I go in this crawl space across the floor, I see someone's carved out channels to where they've recognized the water's been coming in, they channel it over toward one of the corner, and maybe it's either going to a sump pump or flowing out of the crawl space. So surely we're looking for water flowing into this basement or crawl space from outside. That's obvious. Look for bulk water flow. But since water comes into here and dampens the soil, now that dampness will dampen the air, and all the objects down here are going to pick up that dampness and be more moist. And that's all the mold spores sitting on this piece of wood have been waiting for to kick into activity. Look at this joist. How the here's a fairly clean piece of wood. But look at down here, the stains down here. So if I put my flashlight on that, you might even be able to see maybe even see the three-dimensional texture to it. With the flashlight, this section here is really standing out as something a bit different or more aggressive from down here, and it's standing out from the wood. And I can smudge on that with my finger, and see how this is smudging like chalk dust. There's so much more exchange of what's in the crawl space and basement with the living space than you might hope for. The dampness that's down here does dampen the floor and does dampen the rest of the house. The molds that are down here are in higher concentration down here, but they find their way through this carpentry construction that's not airtight. Those mold spores find their way up into the house. Of course, insects that are down here find their way into the house, into the living space. Rodents that are down here find their way in the living space. Who hasn't found a mouse under a cabinet at some time? So what's down here is very much a part of your living space, more so than you'd prefer. This is where the most of the mold is in this house, and this is where we have to give our attention to correcting the issues. A very significant player. Is there mold inside this ductwork right now? Is this ductwork leaking heat or cool into this space? Is this ductwork, the return side, pulling air from this space with all the dampness and mold and odor in it, pulling it into the duct system and pumping it into each room of the house, into the bedroom, into the living room, into the kitchen, something encouraging that exchange of air from the basement to the living space. We've got to take a look at the duct system thoroughly to see to what level it's making things better or making things worse in terms of molds and healthiness. So now we're underneath the bathroom. There's the bathroom drain pipes and some water supply pipe, some electrical wiring. But look at the bottom of the floor where let me get in position over here. The white growths here and the black discoloration of the of this plywood. That could be tested, but we could say, just let's say casually, this is black mold and that's white mold. I don't necessarily have to determine if this is, am I dealing with penicillium or aspergillus or stachybotrys. We can put those scientific names to these, but since I could see it with the naked eye, it's obviously been driven by excessive wetness from above. I wonder if this material's been damaged by wetness, and been wet and damp enough to drive mold growth that aggressive, where we have a problem to fix, and I don't even have to know the name of those. We've got a job that's got to be done down here. This can be scary stuff. Look at that up on the floor, the white and the black, and it's not nice to see that, and it can be downright scary. It's my job is to take the emotion out of this. You don't have to be afraid of this stuff. Mold is good stuff. We need it to do its job. Its job is to, in nature, as it's always been doing, is to break down that organic stuff, the sticks and the branches and the stumps outside. That's their job. And we need them to do that. We need them ultimately to break down this wood, but we need to use the house for a little bit first. The trouble comes in when, and that process starts too soon while we're still here. Damages the floor, throws out mold particles that maybe more so than our body can handle, and we get sick. If we go after it from that factual point of view of understanding what molds are supposed to do, and recognize where they are, and recognize when they're growing out of bounds, find those spots, correct the water, correct the humidity issues, slow them down, turn them off, we're in a better situation. And I'll guide you through that procedure. We'll get you through this. We'll get this fixed, and stop the molds, and let them have the house another day.